How's it going, guys? Rangovids12 here, and we finally have the beginning of Civil War Secret Wars tie-in, and it is awesome. Now, we've got a few, reminiscent things from the original Civil War, which we're going to see in this comic, but I think the artwork as well is awesome. But yeah, so before we jump into it, I'm just going to be doing a giveaway. So, bam! These two codes will get you a digital version of this comic. Now, guys, these two codes are both identical. They're both exactly the same comic, so only take one code, because if one of you takes two codes, then you're basically just getting two of the same comic and taking it away from the other people, if you get what I mean. So, only take one code. Now, you can go to the link in the description to redeem those on the Marvel website. And, of course, guys, if you don't manage to get the comic, then don't worry about it, because there, of course, will be more giveaways in the future. But that also just means that someone else got to those codes before you. Like, it's first come, first serve, so whoever gets those codes first gets the comic. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy it, whoever gets these codes. Now, without further ado, guys, let's jump into this awesome issue. Alright, so the issue begins with us kicking it way back to 6 years ago with something called Project 42, and I think this is Iron Man's secret prison or something like that. Now, we have like this voiceover dialogue going over all of this action, and we can see Iron Man fighting Luke Cage, we can see Spider-Man and Captain America going head to head against other superheroes, and we have just this awesome voiceover about who was in the wrong, who was in the right, and of course they're talking about the Superhero Registration Act and how that kind of divided all the superheroes. Captain America saw it taking away the freedom of right of actually being a superhero. It was these people that were putting their lives on the line for free just to do it because they want to. And now Iron Man has kind of made it a registration act where these superheroes have to sign up, they have to reveal their identity, and then they can be a superhero. And it's become more of a job instead of them doing it out of their own willingness. And that is what Captain America doesn't like about it. But Iron Man thinks that it's bringing order, it's making people safe. It's giving like a routine to everyone where everyone's in the right place at the right time and stuff like that. But anyway, enough of that. So moving on throughout the comic, as you could see there, Black Panther was trying to hack Tony Stark's systems to open up a portal to get everyone out of there. Captain America, Spider-Man, Daredevil, and the rest of Captain America's team. And he accidentally sets off a self-destruction bomb, which is going to blow up the entire prison that they're fighting in. Now, Cloak is the only person that can get everyone out of there all at the same time. And he actually takes Iron Man's team as well. Even though they're both fighting against each other, he even takes the people he's fighting against out of that building, because that is what heroes do. And to be honest, I think that's one of the main things that we can take away from this comic, that these guys are superheroes, and even though they're fighting against each other, they still set aside their differences to save one another. That is just awesome, especially how the dialogue overall of this action explains it out to everyone, and just how it kind of shows the separate opinions of Captain America and Tony Stark. And I absolutely love this part on screen right now, where half of it is Captain America, the other half is Tony Stark, kind of merged together. And I think that kind of separates their differences and, you know, their opinions and everything like that. But it kind of makes you understand a little bit more where these guys are coming from. Tony Stark wants safety and order, and Captain America is fighting for free will and freedom and all that. They're both kind of right, but both in the wrong ways as well. Now, as you can see, Captain America and Iron Man are both going to war all these years later, and it's actually escalated a little bit now. Tony Stark, Iron Man, has actually taken the east side and called it the Iron, and Captain America has taken the west side and called it the Blue. Now, you can kind of see that Iron Man is a little bit more obnoxious because he's named it after himself, whereas Captain America has just named it a colour. Like, probably to represent friendliness and stuff, because in case you guys didn't know, the colour blue actually does reference like friendliness and welcomeness and stuff like that, and freedom, so that's actually a pretty good thing on Captain America's part. Now, as you can see on screen, you can really see the differences between Iron Man's side and Captain America's side, because earlier on in the comic we saw that girl flying, and she was pretty much straight up put into like a superhero school where she could become a superhero straight away, almost like she's joining the army, whereas in Captain America's side, this kid is kind of given his own free will to join at his own risk, and he's just kind of told, yeah, if you want to use your powers for good, then come along. Whereas on Iron Man's side, they kind of just took the girl straight away, if you get what I mean. So that was really interesting to see, just the two different sides and how they both cooperate with each other. Now, I'm not too sure, but I think it's kind of revealed who this voiceover is from, and it's actually from Miriam Sharp, should I say, and she, in the 616 universe, was actually quite a vocal figure in the Civil War, in the original Civil War, because she was actually trying to pass the Superhero Registration Act, and Tony Stark and Captain America were both against it, and the reason why she was trying to pass this Registration Act was because her son died in that explosion that killed 600 people, that is when she made the decision that superheroes need training, they need order, they need safety, and Tony Stark and Captain America, as I've already said, were both against that until she slapped Tony Stark and gave him a toy from her son. And that is when Tony Stark's views kind of changed, and that is when he realised that yes, superheroes do need proper training, and of course they do need safety and stuff. So Miriam Sharp was kind of the turning point for Tony Stark's point of view. But as of in this universe, in this like Secret Wars tie-in, she kind of sits in the middle. She's not chosen any side. She's staying in the middle. She's not gone west to Captain America. She's not gone east to Tony Stark. She's literally just in the middle. And at this point, she's literally striving for Tony Stark and Steve Rogers to create peace, to end this war. And she's actually called a meeting between the two. And as you can see there, Peter Parker is actually working alongside Captain America in his fight against Tony Stark in this war. Now, this is where it kind of gets a little bit confusing because Tony Stark actually brings Mary Jane and Peter's daughter along. Now, this is where it gets a little bit confusing because is the reason Peter Parker hasn't seen Mary Jane and his daughter so long, is it because they sided with Tony Stark whereas Peter sided with Captain America? Or is it because Peter's just been away with the war and that's why he hasn't seen him? I don't know, maybe you guys can let me know in the comment section below, give me your thoughts on that. But either way, Tony Stark brings Mary Jane and his daughter to this place and Peter Parker actually goes off with them and is pretty much free from fighting in this war. So Tony Stark and Steve Rogers sit down at a table and start discussing what's been going on, and Tony Stark reveals that he needs more land for his people. Like, Steve Rogers has way more land than Tony Stark, and that is something that Tony Stark needs, but also Steve Rogers needs food and Tony Stark has food. So they are trying to arrange a deal, or more like a peace offering, for Tony Stark to give Steve Rogers' people food and Steve Rogers obviously to give up some land of his for the people of Tony Stark's side of the team. And they are actually getting a little bit heated in this situation when Miriam stands up and gets shot through the chest. And it is pretty horrific. Now, of course, this is going to start some pretty major war between Tony Stark and Captain America because the bullet actually came from the west, and of course the west is Captain America's side, kind of suggesting that someone from Captain America's side shot Miriam and the bullet came from there. So was the bullet originally going for Miriam, or was it going for Tony Stark or Steve Rogers? We'll have to wait and find out. But Steve Rogers actually contacts Peter and tells him to come back to the war and find out who shot this sniper bullet and all of that crazy stuff. And Peter pretty much has these falcon wings, like he's not using his webs anymore. He still has like his red and blue Spider-Man torso type of thing without the spider webs and the spider. But either way, he's awesome. He's still got his spider sense and everything, which is brilliant. Now, they actually discover that the bullet was shot over 2.5 miles away, which means that the bullet was traveling in midair for 7 seconds. And within that 7 seconds, Miriam stood up, meaning that the bullet was originally for Steve Rogers, and that must have come from the side of Tony Stark. Because why would someone on Steve Rogers' team want to kill Steve Rogers? Like, that wouldn't make sense. So Steve Rogers pretty much blames Tony Stark for this, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter, and Peter Parker is back in the fight for this. So that is where the issue ends, and it was a pretty controversial issue. It kind of shows just like the two different opinions from two brilliant superheroes, and probably one of the major superheroes. I mean, we're getting the Civil War movie coming up later this year, later next year I think it was. So that's probably one of the reasons why this issue was released as a Secret Wars tie-in. But overall, I think the art was awesome. At first, I saw the art and I was just like, I am not fond of this. But as the issue progresses, the art kind of... I've just hit my mic, sorry about that. But the art kind of fits in with the whole tone of how the Secret Wars is. You know, like, it's more dialogue than fighting. It was awesome to see Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and to find out that Peter actually has a daughter in this universe. I thought that was awesome to see, especially because in the original Civil War, Peter didn't have a daughter because, like, the One More Day saga took place after Civil War, so it kind of reset everything. So yeah, that was pretty awesome to see. But overall, I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. Nothing really major happened. We did get some reminiscent things from the original Civil War, which was awesome to see. We got Miriam back again, which was brilliant. And of course, we got to see Tony Stark and Captain America going head to head again, and it not ending. It actually turning out worse than what the original turned out to be. So it's going to be interesting to see what's coming in the future issues. But until then, guys, please go to the link in the description to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Follow my Facebook page to get all the comic book news updates, you know, like early previews of comic books and all the comic book news updates to do with Miles Morales and the new comic book series that I'm reviewing and everything like that in the all new, all different Marvel universe after Secret Wars finishes. And of course, follow me on Twitter to find out when my videos are going up, when they're being edited, if they're delayed, if one's going up today, etc. And of course, guys, hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all in my next video.